Welcome to the SailPoint Identity Security Solutions Show, the one place you go to learn about SailPoint's products and solutions. Joining me today is Grady Slane, Senior Manager of Product Management here at SailPoint. Grady, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks, James.
So excited to have you join us again. This time we're going to talk a little bit more around automation and orchestration. I know those two things are very dear to your heart, along with what we talked about last time. So I'm super excited. So moving away from repeated processes is a top priority that we hear from a lot of our customers and identity teams. Workflows, which is in our Identity Security Cloud solution, has been a key contributor of that, helping customers generate and build more automation into their environments. So, and on average, we're seeing about, I want to say 30 million executions.
That's right. Yep. A month.
A month. That's a lot of executions that are going on in a month. Can you expand on what you're hearing from customers and what's led to this quick rise? I mean, we introduced workflows, how many, 3 years ago?
Right. Navigate in 21.
Navigating 21, so about 4 years ago. And just this rise has been incredible. What do you contribute to that?
Yeah, so, I mean, looking at Navigate 21, right, we went to limited availability at that time. We realized that we hadn't quite hit the mark in terms of usability, and we actually kept that product in limited availability for 9 months while we really shored that up, right? We revisited how we were handling our data models, a lot of our UIs. All this work was really spent towards making sure that when we actually took this to production, that it was going to be a highly usable experience for our customers. And since taking that to production in the summer of 22, we've just continued to hone in on usability, knowing that that is the most important thing for driving adoption, right? Part of that is continuing to focus there. Part of that is measuring things like usability through UX Lite surveys that are still present in the product today. But through that, we've been tracking that metric around usability. We've been implementing capabilities like templates to make it easier for customers to really easily associate how they can use workflows and get started with them easier. Better improvements to how they do testing and troubleshooting. Little tweaks to things like triggers and actions in addition to new triggers and actions that are more usable. And all of this focus on usability has led to not only a steady rise in our usability scores for workflows, but as a direct result of that, this growth in adoption, right? So you don't get to 30 million executions a month unless it's, So now we've largely hit the mark as far as usability goes at this point, and we have so many customers using workflows. I mean, your typical workflow customer has several deployed in their production environments. We have customers that have several dozen workflows deployed in their production environments. But the feedback that we're getting now is, hey, this is amazing. This is really easy for us to use. We want to use it in other places. We want to tackle more sophisticated challenges. We want to tackle the kind of things that we could previously only really address through like coding, for example, right? And that's where we've been focusing a lot of our time and attention as of late. So, for example, addressing scale and making sure that workflows can scale to more complex use cases, right? Part of that has been through things like increasing loop limits. Used to be 100, now it's 250. That helps a lot. Other ways for users to actually engage with workflows. So that includes manually initiating workflows from the My Launchpad experience, for example. It also includes some work we're doing now to really embed the power of this branching logic in other parts of the core experience, right? And these are the kind of things that are going to just drive a lot of power with workflows and allow our customers to tackle, the kinds of use cases that they could previously only really address through using our APIs and building out custom code.
So one area you were just talking about, which I think is really good, is about customers wanting to use more workflows. They wanted that access. So we just introduced SailPoint Harbor Pilot. And as part of that, we have a workflow agent that goes along with it. How do you see this change and this helping identity teams increase their automation?
So I covered how critical usability is in the last question, right? And I covered a lot of the iterative improvements, the evolutionary improvements we've made to improve usability. Harbor Pilot's a little different, right? It's actually more of a revolutionary improvement, right? You know, I'm not going to go too much in the power of these tools, right? I mean, people in general are starting to realize how powerful conversational AIs, ChatGPT, Gemini, Arbor Pilot, how powerful they are and what kind of work use cases that they can apply this technology against. Arbor Pilot being our own homegrown one and being able to help you out with things like search with natural language and learning about how to use the product better. I think the most powerful way that you can leverage Arbor Pilot is, of course, for actually helping you build out your workflows. So the big thing with Arbor Pilot is that it provides a new medium for, in particular, novice users or users that are struggling to figure out for really tricky use cases and challenges. They have something that can actually assist them in building out the workflow for them, right? So I can have a plain English chat with Arbor Pilot, tell it what I'm struggling with, what I want to achieve, and it will actually build out a template workflow for me.
That's awesome.
So that I don't have to go do it myself or figure out how to do it myself, right? So with this kind of technology coming online, I think it's going to be hugely powerful for new users to workflows that, are getting used to the technology. But I also think that it's going to drive a lot more curiosity and creativity around how customers are using workflows today.
And I think one area you kind of touched on it is going to help them build more, not necessarily complex workflows, but help them solve more complex problems.
That's right.
With that workflow.
That's right.
Which is incredible right there. So I'd like to talk about one specific workflows case. It's a lot of different cases with workflows and kind of hone in around the concept around automate dynamic approvals for access, access requests. Can you kind of expand what we're looking at here?
Yeah. Let's talk about how access requests traditionally work in identity security cloud.
I got to start there.
Right? Yeah. So today, as an identity administrator, when you're setting up your access objects, roles, access profiles, entitlements, you're typically defining for each of those things who you want to be the approver when somebody requests those things. And oftentimes that's the manager, sometimes it's the admin themselves, sometimes it's a governance group. But that can be a pretty tedious task doing that for every single access object. Yeah. It's also something that is pretty inflexible, right?
Right, absolutely.
When you're doing it that way, there might be other context associated with that access object that is really important that is not accounted for in the process of the approval at all, right? With dynamic approvals, you actually can start to define exactly how you want an approval flow to work that is based on context for the first time. Wow. So to use a straightforward example, let's just talk about like privilege, for example.
Everybody talks about privilege.
Yeah, right. So maybe let's say that you're dealing with an access object or maybe a range of access objects that have a range of different privilege ratings behind them, low, medium, high, right? With dynamic approvals powered by workflows, you can actually configure a workflow such that if somebody requests something that is, let's say, no or low privilege, maybe they just get that without any approval required from anyone at all.
Wow. Talk about speed.
Yeah. If it's maybe it's like moderately privileged, maybe that goes to a governance group. And then if it's something that's really highly privileged, I mean, this is really sensitive stuff. We want to be very careful about who has access to this. Maybe it goes to their manager first, then it goes to a governance group, and then it actually gets sent off to the SOC team where they can do just a quick check to make sure that everything's okay around that identity before doing a final approval. Or maybe you don't want this stuff to be sequential at all. Maybe you want this to all happen in parallel. Maybe you want some type of quorum approval. These are all use cases that we're going to be able to support with dynamic approvals, and it's going to just drive so much more flexibility and power in governance programs.
That's awesome. That's really, cool to hear as you get those different dynamics to kind of tailor it for what's needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how we talked a little bit about Arbor Pilot, obviously agentic AI. How is additional AI playing a role in this automating world around critical processes?
Well, there's a number of ways that it's playing a role that actually happen outside of workflows too, right? So last year, we released a new capability called generative AI entitlement descriptions. We've probably covered this one on the podcast before, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have descriptions on your entitlements, sometimes like the names for the entitlements aren't always self-evident. It can be hard for somebody to know what they're even requesting or to even find the right thing to request. but there's so many entitlements that it's almost impossible for even a team, like an entire governance team, to get good descriptions added to all the entitlements in the system manually, right? And so this is a great example of where AI can be leveraged to really take care of this sort of like final mile work that's really required for it to be usable for end users.
Right.
There's another good example that we actually just released, which is called machine account discovery.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. So we talked about machine identity security in our last podcast together, right? The newest capability coming to machine identity security is this notion of machine account discovery. So in machine identity security, you have the ability to set up classification logic on each of your sources that you're pulling machine accounts from. And that logic helps you to figure out, as you're ingesting accounts into Identity Security Cloud, all right, this one, given these parameters, this is a machine account. And we're going to put it in the right place in the UI from the get-go. But because it's manually defined, it's not going to catch everything.
Right.
With machine account discovery, we're actually going to leverage the power of AI to help you surface those things that we actually think are machine accounts that weren't caught by your classification logic.
That's awesome.
And make recommendations. Of course, we'll give you the final say.
Yeah.
But it's that last mile stuff to make sure that these resource-strapped identity teams are still able to ship a great product experience at the end of the day to their end users.
Awesome, Grady. So kind of last one, we kind of asked the last one is just kind of thinking future.
Yeah.
Not committing to anything right there, but thinking future. What gets you excited around automation conversations?
So the thing that gets me most excited right now is, we have some work in flight to really help integrate identity with other tools in the IT and in particular security stack.
Yes.
One of the most common pervasive themes that I hear when I talk with customers is that they are frustrated that their identity and their security tools don't really talk to each other. They don't share context with each other. And they're really looking for those kinds of experiences going forward. So we have some really interesting things planned around kind of creating that integration between identity tools and security tools that's going to unlock a lot of power. And when you think about applying not only this integrated context for the first time, but also with some of the stuff we already talked about, like dynamic approvals, it really is going to unlock a whole range of identity security oriented use cases and value propositions that have just simply been impossible up to this point.
That's awesome, Grady. Every time you come on, I get excited.
I'm excited.
I'm excited. Well, thank you very much, Grady, for joining us today. Really, really appreciate it. I want to thank you for watching and listening. If you want to learn more about workflows or machine identity security, join us at SailPoint.com. Thank you.